Hello, welcome to our Sunday morning edition of the papers. With me this morning, the editorial director of the Sunday Times, Eleanor Mills, and also deputy editor of BuzzFeed, that's Jim Waterson. Good morning to both of you. Let's have a look at today's front pages first of all. And there's the Observer says a future Labour government would take legal steps to ensure TV debates become permanent features of general elections. Now, the Mail on Sunday alleges that Downing Street tried to prevent the release of files exposing a cover-up of the abuse allegations against the MP Cyril Smith. There's the Sunday Telegraph, tells us ministers are planning a series of tough new measures to combat the growing threat from Islamic extremists. The Independent on Sunday says Cameron to get his own TV show, says that to ensure balance in its coverage, the BBC will be forced to give Mr Cameron an extended one-on-one interview if he decides not to take part in the forthcoming election debates. Sunday Times reports that George Osborne will use his final budget before the general election to offer an income tax giveaway for 27 million voters. And the Sunday Express says new research suggests statins could be linked to Parkinson's disease. Right, lots and lots to get through. Let's kick off with the Sunday Telegraph. Eleanor, extremism in Britain. Now the crackdown is launched. There's a lot about Islamic extremism across the papers today, but the Sunday Telegraph has gone all in, hasn't it?
Yes, so extremism is definitely the name of the game this morning. What the Sunday Telegraph is saying is basically that there are now about 700 British jihadis, they reckon, who have gone off to Syria to fight with ISIS, and that about 320 of them are back here and are dangerous. And so they're laying out what they think that a next Tory government might do to try and crack down on extremists. So they talk about things like a requirement that staff at job centres identify vulnerable claimants who may become targets for radicalisation. I think that might be quite tricky if you're a benefits officer. How are you supposed to spot who's at risk of Islamisation and who isn't? And that people learn English to improve their integration into British society. And the crackdown is part of a new Get Tough strategy. Now, I would say that the whole point of this story is the Get Tough strategy to try and make it look like they're doing something about it. I can't really see how telling benefits officers to interrogate people about their Islamic beliefs is really going to help us in a kind of crackdown on Islamic State.
Jim, we have to see all of these things through the prism of a general election around the corner, don't we?
I think it's worth noting that this has the sort of fingers of a certain Conservative leak maybe over it with the Lib Dems, and that maybe having blocked this strategy. So what you're looking at here is essentially the Conservative Party wish list, and given the increasing unlikelihood of them getting to form a majority government after the election, basically they've got to find a coalition partner who'd be willing to go through with this stuff, and right now there probably isn't that many out there.
Maybe UKIP, but it's all about kind of British values, learning English, and it's classic kind of Sunday Telegraph catnip.
And at the heart of this also is this idea that you ought to stop children being taught by former jihadists.
Yes, sorry, that looks so random. I hadn't actually mentioned it. Yes, so they're saying for they're going to have a go. They say they're going to target Sharia courts. I mean, again, quite vague, but sounds good if you're the kind of person who likes that kind of thing. And that they're going to ban radicals working unsupervised with children over fears the young could be brainwashed. Well, again, that's kind of quite a good bit of rhetoric, but what does that actually mean in practice?
There's probably mirrors, though, Jim, the fears that a lot of people across the country have got right now.
Yeah, they're real fears, but how do you stop ideas spreading? How can you police every single meeting that's held in any hall? How can you work out who's talking to who at any given point? Especially given that if you've got an encrypted WhatsApp group, or if you're on your phone and you're just sending the ideas around, or you're chatting to people. I don't think too much of this radicalisation is happening in places where the Home Office could send someone along to check that they're all keeping within the law.
I think that's very true on the thing about radical preachers, because what's become clear about a lot of the young people who go off to ISIS is that they've become radicalised in their own bedrooms on the internet, not by going along to a kind of youth group and having some fiery person tell them bad things. So it also kind of doesn't really make sense of what's going on out there.
Now, on the subject of ISIS, Islamic State, the Observer moves away from the kind of domestic side of this and into what is going on here. Very striking image, and a lot of people, and we're talking here about the destruction of ancient treasures.
Yes.
Is it curious that so many people have got very upset about this? perhaps, you might argue, even more upset than the deaths of innocent people.
Well, I've actually written a bit about this in my column today, because I've always really loved those Assyrian, those amazing kind of lions. They're kind of like winged lions. They're in the British Museum, and it's always been one of my absolutely favourite galleries. And I have to say, looking at ISIS going in with their bulldozers to demolish cities that have stood there for 2,000 years, which really are the cradle of human civilization, makes me jolly glad that a lot of it's safely in Bloomsbury in the British Museum and not out there being attacked by these nutters.
But Jim, I think let's all agree it's a bad thing that Islamic State is demolishing thousands of years of culture. Nevertheless, that's not their worst sin, is it?
Not at all, but we can't quite comprehend what they're doing to other humans. So and also there's a major issue here with the lack of reporters inside the Islamic State, meaning we can't actually see the horror of what they're up to, aside from when they're releasing videos or the occasional dispatch from someone who gets inside. So basically what we can do and what we can visualise and what we can have on the front of a paper is this symbol of civilization that's being smashed to pieces. We can't quite deal with the ideas of what they're doing to other people, but we can deal with the ideas of what they're doing to this ruin that's been protected and survived through so many different countries, so many different rules.
Specifically built, in fact, these buildings to withstand attacks, weren't they?
Yeah, they
not
were.
From a bulldozer.
But this is kind of 200-foot temples to the sun god Shamash. They're saying in Nimrod have been destroyed. These are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. I mean, they may not be as well known as places like the pyramids, but they are on a par with the pyramids and the Taj Mahal. And this is really crucial stuff. And I think it somehow goes to the kind of awful arrogance of ISIS, that these are things which humanity has respected and seen as beautiful things, important things about our history for 2,000 years, and yet they are arrogant enough to take it upon themselves to destroy them. I think that that's what's so shocking. It's a kind of complete repudiation of all those years of looking after them and venerating them. It seems completely kind of anti-humane, and we know that that's what they're like. I mean, I think it's just another example of they turn over everything that most of us hold dear.
And they'll also be delighted with the coverage